Jackie Ross doing Selfish One was just one of the hits that was on pop radio at that time. If you were me, a kid in Stamford, Connecticut, you were listening to WABC. If you were out west, you were maybe listening to KHJ, maybe KFIL in Dallas, whatever it was the same type of thing. We were kind of in a little happy bubble as a country, and one Friday afternoon a terrible thing happened, and we were told as third graders that our president had been killed. Now, my specific recollections of that event, which I've recounted over the years, several of my classmates on Facebook told me that's exactly what happened. So I'm at least very happy that my recollection is correct and others were there to see the same thing. Our teacher was in shock. Her mascara was running all over the place. She was sobbing and crying. It was just a terrible, terrible time. But as the world descended from happiness to shock to horror to what's next, the news broadcast first came. The first radio broadcast on record is that of WCBS in New York. And Mike, would you be so kind as to run that?
And this one instance, this little thing, the third child out of wedlock, and he was put in the same mold.
Ladies and gentlemen, we interrupt this program to bring you a bulletin from WCBS Radio News. The story, as it is just being handed to me, is datelined Dallas, Texas. It says, according to the United Press, 3 shots were fired at President Kennedy's motorcade today in downtown Dallas. The incident occurred near the county sheriff's office on Main Street, just east of an underpass, leading toward the Trade Mart in Dallas. The initial story says no casualties were reported, but we now have a flash. This is a flash dated Dallas, Texas. President Kennedy has been perhaps seriously wounded. According to this flash from the United Press International, I am now handed a bulletin from the Associated Press which says that President Kennedy was shot today just as his motorcade left downtown Dallas. Mrs. Kennedy jumped up and grabbed Mr. Kennedy, according to the Associated Press. She cried, "Oh no!" The motorcade sped on. May I repeat the last bulletin from the Associated Press? President Kennedy was shot today just as his motorcade left downtown Dallas, Texas. Mrs. Kennedy jumped up and grabbed Mr. Kennedy, crying, "Oh no," while the motorcade sped on. We are now waiting for additional details from WCBS Radio News. The 2 wire services from which I have been reading are the United Press International and the Associated Press. The flash on United Press International indicates that the president was seriously wounded. The bulletin from the Associated Press tells us that the president was shot today as his motorcade left downtown Dallas. More information now from United Press International. President Kennedy and Governor John Connally of Texas were shot by an assassin's bullets today as they toured downtown Dallas in an open automobile. These are the additional details as they are now coming in to WCBS Radio News from United Press International. Our full staff is prepared now to bring you additional information just as soon as it flows in, and we'll try to stay with you as the details occur. The president's motorcade in downtown Dallas. We now return to our CBS radio network for more information.
That was the voice of the great Douglas Edwards, a Stamford, Connecticut resident, and I'm very proud of that. The the shock was absolutely amazing. One thing I do want to point out, I like to do an annual update every year of the progress of the investigation to the assassination. And over the course of the past year, there was a release of 3,000 documents that, in essence, really told us nothing new. The quizzical things that happened, right away, it was 3 shots that were reported. Years later, you heard a lot more than 3 shots. It's probably turned into one of the greatest whodunits in world history. So many theories. We'll look at the Zapruder film in a moment, but what I would like to do, as the networks were assembling, trying to get all this out to the public, regular programming at that point had been ceased. Bear in mind, all you young folks out there, there was at the most 7 television channels in any one major city. Some even had less than that. But here are these fine journalists who are trying to put all of this together on the wire as it's happening. Sets are being assembled on the fly, and we're going to show the NBC actual announcement of the death of President John Fitzgerald Kennedy. Mike, can you roll this, please?
Either the head or possibly some spinal damage. There is also this, understandably, in a situation like this, the information comes in fragments and comes from unexpected places and uncontrolled angles. Senator Ralph Yarborough, Texas Democrat, who was in a nearby car when the attack took place on the president, said he saw the president's lips moving at what he called a normal rate of speed while Mr. Kennedy was being rushed to the hospital. How much it means, we do not know.
There is further word from the hospital, Bill, that they're trying to make arrangements as quickly as they can for a press conference where as much actual and detailed information as they have can be disseminated.
And there is word here, Frank, that at least one neurosurgeon has arrived at the hospital. I should imagine in a case such as this that virtually every medical specialist of any sort and description and capability would be called into the hospital so that all medical treatment would be available to the president. Chet?
In just this momentary lull, I would assume that the memory of every person listening at this moment has flashed back to that day in April 1945 when Franklin Delano Roosevelt...
Excuse me, Chet. Here is a flash from the Associated Press, Dateline Dallas. 2 priests who were with President Kennedy say he is dead of bullet wounds. There is no further confirmation, but this is what we have on a flash basis from the Associated Press. 2 priests in Dallas who were with President Kennedy say he is dead of bullet wounds. There is no further confirmation. This is the only word we have indicating that the president may, in fact, have lost his life. It has just moved on the Associated Press wires from Dallas. The 2 priests were called to the hospital to administer the last rites of the Roman Catholic Church, and it is from them we get the word that the president has died, that the bullet wounds inflicted on him as he rode in a motorcade through downtown Dallas have been fatal. We would remind you there is no official confirmation of this from any source as yet.
Bill, just moments before you brought the flash, I had word from the hospital that the Vice President, Lyndon Johnson, and his wife had just left the hospital, then rushed away into a motorcade and departed.
This, Frank, might be confirmation of the flash.
We must stand by for confirmation, as Bill has emphasized. This is rather sketchy information. We will stand by. We should have...
Now, there apparently is word that this AP flash, this report from the 2 priests, that the president has died of bullet wounds is confirmed. We will attempt now to get to station WBAP-TV in Fort Worth, Dallas for confirmation. We go to newsman Tom Murphy.
Substantiating this, but not confirming it, is a report about 5 minutes ago by the Dallas Police Department to all of its officers that the president had died. Some 3 to 5 minutes later, the AP flashed that 2 priests at the hospital say the president is dead. Charles Murphy, returning now to NBC in New York.
Word from 2 sources. Again, it is not...
Bill,
right.
Excuse me. We have NBC's Bob McNeil on the line now with a report. Please go ahead, Bob. White House Press Secretary Malcolm Kilduff has just announced that President Kennedy died at approximately 1 o'clock Central Standard Time, which is about 35 minutes ago.
After being shot at
After being shot
by an unknown assailant
by an unknown assailant
during a motorcade drive through downtown Dallas.
during a motorcade drive through downtown Dallas.
The president died
The president died
approximately 25 minutes
approximately 25 minutes
after the attack took place.
after the attack took place.
He had been rushed, bleeding, and
Absolutely, positively unbelievable. The world in shock at that point. We rode home on the school bus in stunned silence. Everything around us was silent. It was the weirdest thing. What I'll never forget is back in those days, you could pull a school bus up to a street and just let the kids walk home. That, of course, doesn't go on anymore. But all of our mothers came down to where the school bus was and hugged us and kissed us. It was just absolutely unbelievable. During a time when it was unusual for women to be working outside of the home. It's something I'll never forget. That was chilling. The filmic record of the assassination, with all the conspiracy theories, was it the mob? Was it Castro? Was it the Sam Giancana's people? Was the limo driver in on it? Was it Governor Connolly? We really can't say for certain. Any theory is as believable as the next one. Pretty much everything points away from Lee Harvey Oswald and the three-shot theory, at least in my humble estimation. However, this film has been with us, and every time you watch it, you see something new, and it makes you wonder yet again. Abraham Zapruder, a Dallas resident, filming this arrival of the president joyfully on an 8mm camera. Mike, let's roll this. Uh, you watch that, and it's beyond description, seeing the President of the United States get murdered. To many people, they have something in their lives that they call the day the music died. To me, the day the music died in the United States of America was the day that JFK was assassinated, and it changed the complexion of the country and perhaps the world forever. We're going to be coming right back with non-profit announcements. Brenda and tabulations, it was right on the tip of my tongue. Well, I'm getting it off better now. We'll be coming back with our non-profit announcements right after this.
Of love.
my favorite segment of this show, the nonprofit announcements, and I've decided to do December's nonprofit announcements a little bit differently. Typically, I'll read what's happening around the state of Connecticut, get out and see things, and you should always do that. You should always go out. Many, many good performances right now of the Nutcracker, scholastic performances that people have worked really hard on. Bring the children. If you're an adult, you should go too, because you'll really see the joy of the holiday season as it was meant to be portrayed. But I'd like to say something perhaps a little bit more serious than going out and seeing an event or seeing a concert or things along that way. And those are things you should do. Take a moment during this holiday season. I'm challenging every one of my viewers and listeners to see if you can find a few bucks or a little bit of time or something in your house that you don't need to donate it and make someone else's life brighter. There are so many people out there. I was at the Regional Economic Breakfast today, a major economic event. And many, many people said that the state we're in, Connecticut, in many ways has yet to emerge from the recession. There is a lot of economic hardship out there. And a meal, a few dollars here or there, a canned food donation, giving a Secret Santa gift to your favorite church or charity can go so far in doing something. There is so much stuff purchased in humankind. Black Fridays will tell you that. But you can make a difference if maybe you buy one or two less things and set aside something for somebody who doesn't have anything. I'd like us all to be a little bit more aware of that this particular holiday season. Look over your shoulder. I know you've got enough. We're going to be coming right back with international correspondent, editor emeritus of the Policy Journal, David Andelman, right here on Tony D'Angelo's PM Coast to Coast. Take it away, Mike, and thanks once again, Dan Ingram.